Hello, dear viewers. Today we will dive into the dark world of one of the most controversial and mysterious musicians of our time, Marilyn Manson. The name of this man has long been a symbol of challenge to society, and his stage a place where darkness, grotesque and challenge merge. But who is he really? Is there really a monster behind the stage image? Or is it all just a skillfully created myth, which we will try to dismantle with you? We will reveal to you such details that may turn your understanding of this story upside down. Manson's world is not just a stage, it is a place where reality and illusion intertwine. It is here, at the crossroads of light and darkness, that the very Marilyn Manson is born, who on the one hand shocks the audience, and on the other causes admiration. But what if his stage image turned out to be too real? What if the darkness he displayed on stage was not just a show, but a reflection of his inner world? Before we begin, I would ask you to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Your support and comments are really important to me. So, let's begin our journey into the dark world of Marilyn Manson. Chapter 1: Rebirth of Darkness. Marilyn Manson, whose real name is Brian Hugh Warner, appeared on the music scene in the 1990s and instantly gained a reputation as the most scandalous artist of his time. His image is a hellish mix of the grotesque, horror and defiant sexuality. He openly opposed religious dogma, social morality and even the very concept of normality. His concerts were accompanied by shocking performances that horrified and mesmerized the audience at the same time. But let's look at his biography a little deeper. Growing up in a family of Catholics, young Brian Warner from an early age faced disillusionment with traditional values. As a teenager, he became fascinated by heavy music and literature about darkness and death. These passions gradually transformed into his own stage image. However, the question arises, was this image the result of mental trauma, or was it a mask that Warner consciously chose to achieve success? His debut album, Portrait of an American Family, quickly caught the public's attention, but his true breakthrough came with the release of Antichrist Superstar in 1996. Manson built his show to shock the audience to the core. But was he really the Antichrist that fans and haters wanted him to be? Or was it just a skillfully created mask? Could it all be part of an elaborate plan to destroy his career? After all, darkness always attracts attention. But what if it becomes a weapon against its very creator? Chapter 2: The Allegations That Shocked the World. In early 2021, Marilyn Manson was bombarded with numerous allegations of sexual abuse. The first to dare to speak out was actress Rachel Wood, who accused Manson of years of psychological and sexual abuse. Wood, who was in a long-term relationship with the musician, described her experiences as a true nightmare. She claimed that Manson used his power and influence to control her life, suppressing her will and mentally draining her. But Wood wasn't the only one. Her allegation was followed by other women who told horrifying stories of what they had experienced in their relationships with the musician. Each new accusation became a real blow not only for Manson, but also for his fans, who had already begun to doubt who their idol really is. However, as with any story, there are points here that raise questions. Why are these allegations coming out now, so many years after their relationship ended? Why didn't any of these women make a fuss earlier, when Manson was at the height of his popularity? Or could this all be nothing more than the result of a carefully planned campaign to discredit him? Could these accusations be the result of a desire to destroy his career? Is it possible that there is more behind all the hype than just the stories of the victims? Chapter 3: The Secret Relationship Between Manson and His Victims. In their statements, Rachel Wood and other victims recounted that Manson manipulated them, intimidated them, and used their mental instability for his own purposes. They claimed that he used his fame and charisma to bend women to his will, turning them into puppets. What's interesting, though, many of these women had long not only maintained relationships with Manson, but also publicly expressed support for him. Wood, for example, has long maintained that her relationship with the musician was an important part of her life, and she herself chose him as a partner. It begs the question, what could have kept these women silent for so long? Why did they continue to maintain contact with the man they now claim caused them so much pain and suffering? Could it be that things were not as clear-cut as they tell us? Or was Manson so skillfully manipulating them that they were unable to realize the full extent of what was happening? On the other hand, perhaps it was after breaking up with Manson that they began to realize the true nature of their relationship. After all, many victims of violence often realize the gravity of the situation only after a period of time, when they find themselves outside the influence of the aggressor. Chapter 4: Monster or Victim? Marilyn Manson has always been a contradictory figure. On the one hand, the stories of the victims are so horrifying that it's hard not to believe them. On the other, there are moments that make you wonder. For example, the numerous contradictions in their testimony, the lack of real evidence, and how quickly and massively they started making accusations after Evan Rachel Wood's statement. Let's take a closer look at the allegations of violence and manipulation. Manson has always been known for his eccentricity and shocking performances. But does this mean that his stage persona carried over into his personal life as well? Could a man so skillfully manipulating images and the mind of the audience could apply the same techniques on his partners? There is a version that Manson used his artistic techniques not only on stage, but also in real life. For example, stories about his passion for sadomasochistic practices and unusual forms of sex were known back in the 1990s. But how much of it was true and how much was just part of his image? After all, the line between fiction and reality for an artist like Manson has always been extremely thin. Can Manson be considered a monster, as he is described by his former partners? Or was he a victim of his own image, which got out of control and began to live its own life? Perhaps he himself did not expect that his artistic experiments and attempts to shock the public would lead to such consequences. And maybe we, the audience, are also to some extent to blame for what happened. After all, we readily absorbed each of his shocking performances without thinking about the consequences. Chapter 5: The musician's fate after the accusations. After the allegations hit Manson, his career began to crumble at an unprecedented rate. Labels and producers refused to work with him, concerts were canceled one after another, and his name became synonymous with horror and violence. Marilyn Manson was on the verge of total destruction as a public figure. But let's think about it. What happens if all these allegations turn out to be false? Who will compensate him for his lost years and reputation? Who will be responsible for his ruined career and personal life? The answer to these questions is still unclear, but already we can see how public opinion can destroy a man even if he is not yet proven guilty. Is there a chance that Manson will be able to return to the stage and restore his name? He may have to completely change his image and give up what made him famous in order to somehow rehabilitate himself in the eyes of the public. On the other hand, we have seen many examples of celebrities who have been accused of serious crimes and eventually returned to normal life. Could that happen to Manson? Or is his name forever linked to the horrors his victims have told us about? What will be the price of his return, if it is even possible? And what is more important, truth or public opinion? After all, these two concepts are often on opposite sides. Chapter 6: The Mask of Darkness, Reality or Illusion? Marilyn Manson's image has always been designed to shock and frighten. His stage performances were saturated with violence, darkness, and sexuality. He was someone who broke taboos and challenged traditional values. But what was the true purpose of this image? Was he just an act of art created to show the hypocrisy of society? Or was it an embodiment of the real darkness hidden deep within Manson himself? Can we separate the artist and his work when it comes to such a controversial image? After all, many artists use their inner demons as a source of inspiration. But where's the line beyond which art ceases to be safe and becomes dangerous to others? Manson himself has repeatedly stated that his image is a kind of protest against society, which imposes its norms and standards. His music and performances are a way of showing how hypocritical the world around us can be. But could this protest have gotten out of hand? Is it possible that Manson himself has become a victim of his own creation? I wonder what history would have looked like if Manson had never chosen this image. Would his life have been different? Or was it his inevitable fate? Chapter 7: The Aftermath of the Scandal and Manson's Future. Marilyn Manson's fate now remains in great doubt. The accusations continue to pile up, and even though he denies his guilt, his career is in jeopardy. The situation around the musician is still extremely tense, and it is unknown whether he will ever be able to regain his good name. But there is an important question here: how willing are we as a society to condemn a man before he is proven guilty? In the age of social media and instant information dissemination, reputations can be destroyed in just a few hours. And who is then responsible for the lives destroyed? Do you think it is possible in today's world to restore one's good name after such a scandal? Share your opinion in the comments. It is important for me to know your point of view. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. Will Manson be rehabilitated in the eyes of the public? Or will his name forever be tarnished by these allegations? These are questions that are not yet answered. But one thing is certain: this story is far from over. Chapter 8: Manson's image in culture, from protest icon to symbol of darkness. Marilyn Manson has always been more than just a musician. He became a true cultural phenomenon, a symbol of protest and defiance. His style, his music, and his performances inspired a whole generation of young people looking for their place in the world. Manson was for them the embodiment of freedom from rules and norms. But how did an image that was originally created for protest transform into a symbol of darkness and terror? Why did Manson, who was once a youth idol, find himself at the center of a scandal that ruined his career? The answer may lie in the very nature of his image. Manson always played on the edge of the permissible, blurring the lines between reality and art. His concerts were saturated with symbolism, and his lyrics dark metaphors. But where's the line beyond which art ceases to be a symbol and becomes reality? Perhaps this is Manson's tragedy. His image became too realistic, and people began to see him as more than just a stage mask. Could an image created to protest eventually become something that destroys its creator? Or will Manson still manage to escape this darkness and find a new path? Chapter 9: Marilyn Manson's legacy. Who will he remain in history? When time passes and the scandal gradually fades into the past, what will Marilyn Manson's legacy be? Will he remain in people's memories as a symbol of protest and art? Or will his name be associated only with terrible accusations and a ruined career? The answer to this question depends on how society perceives his story. Manson was and still is a figure that evokes strong emotions. For some, he will always be an idol who inspired freedom and rebellion against the system. For others, a monster whose actions cannot be forgiven. But it's important to remember that history is usually more complicated than it seems at first glance. Perhaps in time we will see Manson in a new light, and his legacy will be evaluated more objectively. After all, art, no matter how provocative, always remains a reflection of the time and society in which it was created. Conclusion: the story of Marilyn Manson is a story about the boundaries between reality and illusion, good and evil, art and real life. But in the end, each of us draws our own conclusions. Maybe there is no unambiguous answer in this story. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. What do you think? Leave your opinion in the comments. I want to know what you think about it. And if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new episodes. After all, there are many more interesting topics and exciting stories ahead of us. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.